Alright, hello to all my guys, gals, and non-binary pals out there across the electrical ocean. This is Jazzman, and we are back with another game. This one going to be between Badgerale, playing full faction Underdepths, and baaly369, playing full faction Forglar Swamp. And it seems like Badgerale here is, he's going with a stitched merged. That's interesting. Merged is, he's a really tanky boy. He's got Absorb, he's got Tough 3, and a ton of stats. Definitely worth the 90 Nora, just in the stat department alone. And he's got that Hook Fiend, holding down the mid-font versus Voodoo Shamfi. And Baaly is usually like a Forsaken Waste split player. But seems to be bringing out some aquatics today, and he's got a Razor Fin Slider. Now, Razor Fin Slider, this makes me a little bit giddy, because now I'm expecting some weird stuff like Shock Pomfret and, Mere Vixen and those the aquatic champs that you don't really get to see too often. And Razor Fin Slider is definitely one of them. I mean, he's got 9 speed, but of course with aquatic, he's lumbering when he's not in water. But with that Voodoo Shamfi around providing the waterfront, that'll give him plenty of mobility to get in there and wreck some face. He's got a ton of damage, he's got rend, and his only real downside is that, aside from aquatic of course, is that he only has 30 HP. So he dies if Badgerale just breathes on him funny. But we've got Cecilia over here as well, defending against that Grief Bearer. And it seems like Baaly is sort of trying to, well, I was going to say he was going to play around Drudgery by moving his champs to as little AP as possible, but seems like he's kept 5 on that slider for next turn. But yeah, Cecilia is still kind of a nuisance to deal with unless you have anti-healing. I mean, she heals for 10 at the start of every turn because of the Enlightened Regeneration combo. I mean, that's before you can put, like, Aquatic Talisman and stuff on her. Plus, Boghopper Shamans incoming from the Rune Dock, so she's pretty annoying to deal with in, like, a 1v1 scenario, provided there's water around. But Badgerale, not to be deterred, sending that Grief Bearer forward, threatening to contest Baaly's font. And we're going to see a pummel here from Shamfi that I expect is... Oh, wow, okay, so he didn't have the Horrific Aura up. I'm wondering if that was... There's no way Badgerale forgot about that, right? Did he, maybe there's an Avenging Flame or something on there? It's strange that he doesn't have Horrific Aura up. Maybe he had it up earlier and he was expecting Baaly to move in sooner, but that is definitely one dead Hook Fiend. He's gonna die to the damage over time here. And I guess, yeah, Baaly can just finish that off right now to deny the Nora Globe. And nope, no Avenging Flame, no nothing on there. And down comes, and there's the Aquatic Talisman actually onto Voodoo Shamfi. So Voodoo Shamfi is now going to heal for 25% of its max HP at the start of every turn. And even goes down, even goes to throw a Watershed Anchor down in the path of that Merged. So Merged is now slowed, and because of his immense girth, he's blocked out of that font. So Baaly definitely in control of this game here. Badgerale going to lay down a Fire Blast, trying to get that Watershed Anchor out of the way and maybe kill the Shamfi. Shadowrake unfortunately cannot take any actions this turn, currently chilling in stasis. But if he could do, I don't know, if he could do maybe like another Fire Blast, that would be pretty good. He'd kill, or even like a Maddening Echoes. Well, I guess that wouldn't hit the Watershed, but if he could somehow kill that Watershed with another spell, and then move Merged in to finish off the Shamfi, that would be pretty decent for him. A Stitched Merged, I mean, he is tough 3, and you can tank a while in that font against Hydraxor. So we'll see the Grief Bearer contest, and an Animosity come down. Unfortunately, that's 1 damage short of killing the Anchor. So Merged, they'll have to go in and thwap that Shamfi, but unfortunately Tough prevents the kill. I'm guessing Animosity was either all Badgerale had the Nora for, or maybe he didn't have any other spells revealed yet. But, I mean, it will take out the Anchor, but the Shamfi will still live, because the Chard will not be enough to take it out. Temple of Brutality to contest the font, though, denying that deployment zone, and then following it up with a Drudgery, which is, it seems like sort of a desperation move from Badger, just because it denies, like, the Shadowrake gaining maximum AP on his turn. But it does take away quite a bit from the Slider and the Hydraxor. So Baaly gonna make the most of things here, taking the temple down with the Razor Fin. And then I guess he could move that Razorfin in to keep that merged out of the font as much as possible. But his Shamfai is definitely gonna breathe its last on his next turn. His Stitched merged, even if he's shrunken, he is sporting quite a lot of damage. And I wouldn't put it past Badger to have another spell ready at his disposal to take out both of these champions at once. And then Griefbearer, though, I don't think is gonna do too well versus Cecilia and her bevy of slimy tentacles as they wrap around him, constricting. Oh no, she didn't constrict; she just charmed. But she can do that the constriction on her next turn. And a backfire. Is that a backfire boon? It is. Wow. So superiority getting backfire booned, and now suddenly Bally's champions are all healed quite significantly here. So Badgerale, unfortunately, not going to be able to get those 2 kills. Shadow Rake. Wait, what? Wait, did Bally not get his top font? I saw Hydraxor moving this way on his first, in the early game, and I just kind of assumed that he would have grabbed his font, but he did not. So that's kind of... That makes things a lot better here, honestly, for Badgerale. I mean, even though he got his spell fizzled, it's like Bally only had... Bally has no fonts right now. Well, he had the Nora from this font for a bit, but he has gained no Nora from any of these other fonts, except the 12 on that one turn that he had this font. But yeah, it seems like Badgerale's gonna do okay here. I mean, he still has both of his fonts, and Bally's is contested for the moment. I mean, Shadow Rake, like in a 1v1 sort of scenario, with Shadow Rake will, well, I guess he has block too, but with 8 speed, he can still definitely out melee the Boghopper Paladin with his little Shadow Dancers to eat through the block. And then it's sort of forcing Bally to divert the Hydraxor down to deal with Griefbearer, which honestly, in my opinion, isn't really necessary. Like, the Cecilia can totally 1v1 the Griefbearer, even without the presence of water, for her semi-aquatic. But if I were Bally, I'd probably look to dive into the water created by this Paladin to maybe sort of deter the Shadow Rake from contesting this font up here. But it seems like Badgerale chooses not to do so. Interesting choice. He goes for the kill on Razorfin instead. But unfortunately, the Shadow Rake, the lesser Shadow Rake spawns in his way, sort of. I guess he wanted to maybe move into this mid-font with his remaining 4 AP, but there is actually an elevation difference here that prevents the Shadow Rake from moving across these spaces. So a little bit unfortunate for Badger, and I don't know. I feel like Merged could have held down the fort there for a little bit longer. I think denying this font from Bally would have been probably the better play. Because his Hydraxor is all the way over here, and this Griefbearer is definitely not going to last long versus these two. So by the time Bally gets this font back, you might have been able to capture this font from the Paladin, and Bally would have had to deploy over here to defend against that, and therefore making his mid-font capture positionally worthless. But, maybe Badger has something better in mind. He seems to be trying to hit the Hydraxor, maybe that's why maybe he's just thinking on the rest of his turn. He can't do a Drudgery, and unfortunately he can't do a Nexus Aura either, which I'm pretty sure he would definitely want to do here to split that damage up, that incoming damage up a bit. But when you're constricted, literally all you can do is basic attack the target that constricted you. You can't use any other of your active abilities. So unfortunately there will be no Nexus Aura from the Griefbearer, and it will be going down to the jaws of a Hydraxor. Now, there's actually a Fire Ruby coming down for Badger, and that's going to be quite a nuisance for Bally to have to maneuver around. Any champions he deploys here at this mid-font are going to have to be deployed a little bit further away, just to avoid the bolt. And as far as the Shamfai goes, it's trapped. It ain't going anywhere. Fire Ruby blocks it. Shadow Rake and Merged block it, so it's basically just has to fight its way out. And at this point, I'd probably just focus on that Merged. With no healing, it's probably the most important target here. Aside from you can't even really kill the Shadow Rake summon, so there's really no point in attacking that thing. Because even if you kill it, I mean, the Shadow Rake is just going to deploy another one on its next attack, right? So, yeah. Shamfi is pretty much screwed, but Bally did manage to resecure that bottom font, and now getting top. Then deploys a second Voodoo Shamfi at that mid font, even deploying it into the Fire Ruby range, not even caring. He knows that this one's going to take the bolt. So this one is safe for the moment, and I really do think if Badgerale went for that top font, he'd probably be in a decent place. He does still have his 2 side fonts, so it's basically 3 fonts to 2 at the moment. And we'll see what Badgerale deploys next. And ooh, a Maxx. Okay, so he's going to go for the late game here, probably relying on his summons, his dark summons, to power through after he gets some kills. And it's interesting. Usually Badgerale goes for like a cheeky rapid assault play with Maxx and then beckons him forward to get a good set of blaze on the target, but he probably didn't have the Nora for that, or didn't really see the need to set ablaze this half-dead Voodoo Shamfi. But he goes for the what was that called? Boundless Enthusiasm. So Boundless Enthusiasm, causing the Shadow Rake to leap into that mid font. Very nice. Boundless Enthusiasm, I think, is a great, really underrated spell. A lot of underdepth players could benefit from running that. Just gives like a surprise burst of mobility and homing sense. I think on a champion like a Shadow Rake or something really dangerous in melee, that, or even like the merged, something that it doesn't really have any engage potential on its own. You just cast it and it can immediately get into the fight, along with the additional resistances that Portal Dancer gives. So pawn triggering, killing the Shadow Rake summon. Meanwhile, the real Shadow Rake going to duke it out with the Shamfi here. Shamfi is actually still within range of that Fire Ruby, unfortunately for Bally, so he's going to take a nice 13 damage hit on its next turn. But the merged is actually kind of trapped here by Badgerale's own Fire Ruby, so that's a little bit unfortunate for him. So merged can't really can't squeeze his massive ass by the relic. So he's probably gonna have to wait. Maybe relocate the Maxx in and then reposition towards topside. That incoming Boghopper Paladin most likely won't shy away from contesting once Maxx has moved. And we'll see a Torton Mortar here from Bally. Not an aquatic champion, but definitely provides some good cover fire, some good range for a deck that. I mean, I wouldn't say aquatics lack range. They have Circadian champions that can provide range. Chronomancer is an awesome support. The Circadian Merchant has some nice combo potential with aquatic decks. But, I don't know, Torton Mortar definitely brings a lot more damage than those other ones do. Oh yeah, Force Mage. I've been meaning to, well, not meaning to talk about it, but anytime someone plays aquatics, I'm always expecting or hoping that they would deploy a Force Mage, because I think Force Mage is really underrated as far as support champions go. Sort of like half support, half ranged damage dealer. It's got telekinetic thrust and force barrier, a lot of annoying repositioning tools, and then the knockbacks from Gale that it can provide. Really nice to help secure kills and get some surprise damage bursts off. But Badgerale, rightly recognizing the threat provided by the incoming Cecilia, deploys the Unhinged Bach. And this is something that's always bugged me about this champion. It has no animation on its wings. It's sort of just, it's like it's hovering there, just hovering there in midair, not even trying to flap. It's like it's T-posing on us. But it would really be nice if Slugbait could get this animation to work in his spare time, perhaps. But Unhinged Bach is pretty dangerous in the melee department. I don't know if it's gonna be a while before he gets through Cecilia's charms and heals and stuff, but it can definitely win that 1v1, that matchup, especially if it gets the first few hits, which it will, thanks to the Manic and the Blood Rage that's gonna come in. So there we see the set of Blaze actually going down onto Hydraxor, which was, I believe, the result of. Let's see. I missed that because I was talking. So Maxx summoned the Nephrite Guardian with his Dark Summons ability. And then, yeah, the Avenging Flame, that's what it was. So the Avenging Flame actually going down onto the summoned Lesser Shadow Rake, causing the Hydraxor to become engulfed in flame for its turn. So that was a nice little bit of synergy there between the Shadow Rake and his summon. There was actually the Mind Slicer Boomerang going down, giving Cecilia defenseless because it hit so many champions. Badger. So Unhinged Bach definitely going to get this kill here with the Blood Rage. Not at all to be enraptured by Cecilia's charmingly curvaceous octopoid body. And he's going to get Manic as a result of that kill from Psychotic Break. So Badgerale should be moving him at least like one space back towards the font, just so that he doesn't Manic out of it towards Bally's other champions and prevent Badgerale from recapturing it. So there's actually a secret meeting relocating the merged further inward. Next to the Shadow Rake, I would presume. And Shadow Rake going to town on that Hydraxor. Now, it's a shame that Shadow Rake does not have, what was that, Rotting Blow upgraded, because Rotting Blow would be awesome versus Hydraxor's Spontaneous Regeneration, which seems like will save his life this turn. Badgerale upgrading Scoured instead. I'm pretty sure. Oh yeah, so the lesser Shadow Rakes actually come with Rotting Blow because it gives like the basic upgrade lines. It doesn't. Whereas Pawn, you actually have to select it in the Rune Manager. But Scour and Rotting Blows are the default choices. So if Badgerale can get an attack on there with the lesser Shadow Rake, that would be nice. Hydraxor diving into the font, and Torrent Mortar equips the what is this, Twisted Emerald. Interesting. So Twisted Essence being given to actually nothing, because Pawn is weird like that. It does not replicate conditions onto the redirected target or to the target itself. So I guess Hydraxor is going to have to rely on this Boglight Crystal that it equips for Lifesteal instead. So it's going to take down the Merged with one hit, and then put a second into the Shadow Rake, and Bally realizes that if that Rotting Blows gets on there, his Hydraxor is finished. So he goes for the kill with this, I'm not sure if this is a second Razorfin or the first one that just came off cooldown, but either way, Razorfin Slider, taking out that lesser Shadow Rake summon. I'm wondering if it would be worth to maybe like get your Shadow Rake on there, get your Shadow Rake summon, and then somehow give it enough AP to attack just to get the Rotting Blows, because that's a lot of healing on Hydraxor, and a Bubble of Protection as well. So Bally sort of going all in on his Hydraxor at the moment. Meanwhile, Maxx is unfortunately left by the wayside, sort of sitting off all alone in this vegetative, I was going to say in this vegetation, because, you know, there's grass and stuff here, but I could also just as well have said in his vegetative state, since he's completely isolated from all the action on all sides of the map. But Boghopper Paladin does contest, as expected. And what was that? Damage detected. I think Badgerale just... Yeah, so he's attacking he's attacking through the Bubble of Protection. Which he actually does. Hunter Quick... now actually activating because of Hydraxor's +1 speed, and yeah, from the semi-aquatic. So semi-aquatic gives +1 speed, allowing Shadow Rake's Hunter Quick to go into action. 2 hits was all it took to eat through that Bubble of Protection. Unfortunately for Bally, Spontaneous Regen does not trigger off of those attacks because they have to do damage for that. So Nephrite Guardian doing what he can to get this Boghopper Paladin out of his way, but with block 2, that's easier said than done. So there in comes the Pawn attack, being diverted onto the summon again, and this Hydraxor is definitely going to be a serious problem for Badgerale, especially now that the cleave is coming in. Ooh, a split personality! I take it back. I take it all back. Strangely, he actually gets the healing from Twisted. He doesn't get the lifesteal from Life Siphon, but he did take 14 loss of life there from Split Personality. Bally wisely choosing not to just, spam attack, Yeah, you'd say spam attack. Basically just going slowly to make sure that he doesn't run into any further loss of life from split personality. So Hydraxor down to 18 HP, but unfortunately the Shadow Rake will die to the damage over time effects here. Rend 2 and Shard from the Mortar, and then a Merfolk Stalker as well. Another very cheap aquatic champion here for baaly. And Stalker used to be such bullshit. He had Deep Dive, which is the Wave Crusher ability that let him teleport to any water space on the entire map. Like if the Stalker was over here, he could just zoop over to this font, like near the next to the Paladin. But thankfully, he doesn't have that anymore. Just got changed to normal dive because global relocation, funny enough, is completely busted. He does have multi-attack and assassinate, so he's no slouch in the damage department. But Badgerale is really going to have to... he needs to get that Maxx into action somehow. Maybe used to be back in the day, you'd always have like Deep Elf Priestess somewhere in your deck if you were running Maxx, just so that he wouldn't get stuck in situations like this. But now that Beckon Demon has an appropriate cooldown of 3 rather than the 1 that it used to be, Deep Elf Priestess isn't quite the mainstay champion she used to be back in the day. So Unhinged Bach, taking advantage of the low HP Hydraxor, getting a normal attack and then a Blood Rage to finish it off. So Badgerale seemingly not at all concerned with the Hydraxor. Maxx gonna poop out another Deep Elf, this time a Mercenary. And Mercenary's pretty cool. She's really cheap for her stats now that she has the banner buff. And she's got, she's got Melee Specialist, and I guess Declare Hunted... Nah. Oh, it does work. It does work. So Declare Hunted coming in, even though she's deployed by Maxx, instead of from the Rune Dock, as the ability would state. So if that Boghopper Paladin ever does get within 5 spaces of Maxx, Maxx will just be able to jump over to him. Although I'm pretty sure, actually, yeah, Purified will get rid of the tagged conditions. So I guess Badgerale could use it this turn with Nephrite Guardian, but Paladin probably has block up anyway, so that wouldn't really accomplish anything. But yeah, in the mid-font here, we've got Unhinged Bach versus the Razorfin Slider, and I actually think Unhinged Bach is going to die here, because Razorfin Slider has 14 damage plus Rend 2. There's no way he lives. I think it's probably worth it, though, like to take out that Hydraxor that was just going to lifesteal up anyway. And there's also the Merfolk Stalker that could potentially come in for a dive hit if he wanted. Yeah, so it seems like the tides are slowly turning in favor of baaly, although if Maxx can get a few more Dark Summons off, Badgerale might be able to stay in it. But this Boghopper Paladin is really making a nuisance of himself in this font. And it's interesting how the condition granted... Oh, no, yeah, so yeah, they're two separate things. So Hunted is from... Hunted stays because it's an ability, whereas Tagged is a condition. So it gets cleansed. And there's Karch Finlord. So I guess this isn't really a full aquatic deck. It's just sort of like an aquatic mix here from baaly. So deploying the Karch Finlord, great range champion for FS. You'd probably run it in pretty much every deck, I would say. He's just like you run him in Boghoppers, you'd run him in Muirfolk. Maybe not Salaman because they have other really good options, but like even Gelibriums could probably make use of him just because he's really versatile. He's fast, he's a dot, he's durable with his range and his mobility. And then precision is always helpful. But Nephrite Guardian doing what little damage he can with the binding chains to that Paladin. Paladin will be cleansed due to Purified, but the damage will stick because Paladin has no built-in healing. And Deep Elf Scout there from Badgerale as well. And I'm thinking, yes, I'd say Scout is probably over here. I mean, I wouldn't really think Badgerale would go for the font sneak now while he has his font already contested and he's being pushed in mid. Kind of has to consolidate, get this situation under control rather than go for a ballsy play, because by the time Scout, gets over here to this font, he'll probably have already lost on both these fronts. But there's actually a flood from baaly, giving this Razorfin Slider some water to dive to into the face of into the loving bosom of that Nephrite Messenger that came into contest with initiative. And Badgerale actually chose to upgrade Regen 2 over Reinforcement. Whenever I see a Nephrite Messenger these days, I always see Reinforcement upgraded along with Initiative, which personally I always thought was a little bit overkill. I'd probably pick one or the other. Unless you're, I don't know, you could make an argument for her, for using her for like on deploy, like drive 3 champs, and and go for some kills on an overextended opponent. But I like the sustainability provided by Regen plus Life Siphon, because you're not always going to run into a lot of anti-healing, right? And the longer Messenger sticks around, I mean, she's a decent combat champion, good damage, good range. So the Flood actually knocks Messenger away, but it doesn't quite kill her, so she could potentially Life Siphon here off of this slider. You do still have to watch out for the Merfolk Stalker that is potentially lurking in this water. And Badgerale goes for the Fire Blast and actually catches the Stalker in that AoE, which is nice because it means no more Assassinate. And wow, Badgerale, okay, so he's using an Animosity and a Fire Blast to take out a Razorfin Slider. Interesting choice. I guess he's doing that to try and get Dark Summons off cooldown faster. But that's a lot of Spell Nora going in to take out a single Razorfin Slider here. Especially since the Messenger is probably dead, unless baaly somehow gloriously misplays this turn. Or if Badgerale just runs away, that's an option too. So he's going to retreat, and yeah, he's definitely trying to catch up to this Paladin. And I think baaly did a little bit poorly in his positioning here, positioning the Paladin near the back of this font, where he doesn't really leave him an easy escape route because he's blocked in on both sides. He can only move 2 spaces, so that's only an extra 2 defense from Bold. Probably would have been better to keep him over here where there's more area, like just more spaces to move to, so that he can get Bold stacked up. But now that he's trapped, it shouldn't be too long before Badgerale takes him out. And, ooh, the Scout. Okay, so the Scout was over here. I guess Badgerale was expecting the Karch to try and contest. But Karch actually ran right into the Scout. Did he leap into that? Or, yeah, he did. So he can't even get away now, because he is engaged. So Karch going to take some hits from Scout. Probably not going to be enough to kill, but baaly also deploys Cecilia, this one with Stun instead of Charm, into this mid-font. Yeah, baaly slowly leveraging his greater Nora advantage to take over this game. This Bogcopper Paladin has done quite a bit of work. And Maxx, meanwhile, has simply sat on his throne, off in the middle of nowhere, contemplating conquests to come, because he probably understands that this one is not quite going so well. So Nephrite Messenger going to sort of regen it up, try and survive, staying alive, and maybe she can go in for a drive. No, she's out of range. So she can't really go back into that font. That would be absolutely certain death. So we'll see. I don't know. It's tough to decide here for Badger, because he's got to deal with that Paladin. But block 2 makes things quite difficult for him. And there's another Bogcopper Paladin incoming as well. I think if I were playing an aquatic deck like this, I don't know if I'd run 2 Paladins. I think I'd probably run like 1 Paladin and maybe one Bogcopper, the one that summons Tads. Spawn Pool Guardian. Probably run Spawn Pool Guardian because she has Hydrates. She can make water, not as frequently as Paladin, but Spawn Pool Guardian is just such an awesome support champ. Definitely worth a slot in a lot of Forglar Swamp decks. She brings a lot of healing, she brings Cleanse, and then Hydrate for AP gain. But Badgerale doing a secret meeting here on Nephrite Messenger, bringing that Maxx a little bit closer to the Bogcopper Paladin. And then sacrificing the Messenger too, so maybe we'll see another deploy at this bottom font to help ward off the Karch. I guess Deep Elf Scout has nothing better to do with his AP, so he might as well hit the Karch twice, right? And then, yep, he deploys a Badger Wolf down here. Badgerale getting desperate now, deploying his himself to the field. So he's going to have to... so we don't know where the Maxx is, but I'm betting the Maxx is like around here, because Secret Meeting follows fairly standard relocation protocol. So I'm thinking the Maxx is like right here. But yeah, Badgerale realizing that he has to take matters into his own hands. And Merfolk Stalker, meanwhile, takes down that Fire Ruby. I don't think that Fire Ruby... Yeah, that Fire Ruby hit like 3 times on the Shamphais from earlier. So it did its job. But I think the fact that it blocked out the Merged at one point was a little bit too much. And yep, there's Maxx. I'm actually kind of surprised that Paladin decided to run into it. I guess he wanted to get up bold, but I mean, he can block. If he's smart, he'll set block to the Maxx rather than one of these champions. And I think, though, if Badgerale does get this kill, he'll be able to deploy another champion from Dark Summons. So, and then maybe grab this globe with like a Raider or something with initiative. So, meanwhile, Karch going in for a spear shot on the Deep Elf Scout. And Bally should have the Nora to deploy again at this font, and he does, another Merfolk Stalker. Man, Bally's deck, I wonder what Bally does. I guess it makes sense now that he's running the double Paladin, because he has a lot of like regular aquatic champions, not semi-aquatic champions. He's got double Stalker, probably double Razorfin Slider, and then, you know, the Cecilia with semi, but I think double Paladin, double Shamphai is a wee bit overkill. I mean, you've got Hydraxor as well with Trail Water, so you can do that. And if you're running, you know, spells like Flood or Monsoon, they make water too. And then, oh yeah, the Watershed Anchor has waterfront. Guess, I guess Bally making extra super duper sure that all of his champions have their necessary H2O. And man, I really would have liked to see like some shock, like some shock Pomfrets or some electric eels, maybe a Screaming Leviathan, perhaps. Screaming Leviathan, one of the other champions that I personally had a hand in buffing. I think a lot of people underrate him sometimes. But Tort and Mortar, I guess, makes up for the range department. And Maxx goes for a Dark Summons onto that globe. Very nice. And then a Bodyguard for Nephrite Guardian, protecting his master with all he's got. And Maxx just casually snapping his fingers through that Cecilia, taking off a few of her tentacles. And oh yeah, the Boundless Enthusiasm was on here too. So Maxx is going to relocate on his own. And that's another great use for Boundless Enthusiasm, because stationary doesn't actually prevent Maxx from jumping around due to homing sense. So who was that choking from lack of water? I guess it was the stealthed, what's it called? Stalkers. The Boghopper Paladin fearlessly moving forward into Maxx attack range. And because of all the deaths, Maxx could actually set ablaze if he wants. Or maybe even seismic leap into that font if he wants to. There's another flood actually providing the water for his Stalker. The Merfolk Stalker goes in for a hit on Maxx. Of course, the damage is redirected thanks to Bodyguard. And man, that watershed anchor dropped by the Boghopper Paladin's last breath. Definitely going to be a major nuisance to Badgerale here again in this font situation, slowing everyone up. Just another thing that Badgerale has to worry about before he gets his font back. But over here, it's actually looking okay. I mean, Scout could maybe get into the font. A Flycatcher, really? Huh. I mean, he has detection, and you know, hidden water is okay. But I never would have expected a Flycatcher. I would have thinking like, for detection, maybe like a Gelibrium Mediator, maybe. But Flycatcher, he seems okay. You know, he's got more constriction, more CC, and he can just sort of sneak up on you and wrap his little feelers around you and keep you still. But Flycatcher, not usually a champion you see much of. I don't know what this is supposed to be anyway. It's like a crustacean sort of thing. That little, I think that's a shell on his back. But very interesting choice. 1 to 2 range, you know. I mean, semi-decent stats for 60 Nora. But up here we've got the Maxx leaping... no, that was the Homing Sense relocation. So yeah, Homing Sense relocating into the other side of Cecilia. Now he could definitely leap into that font. There's a Mind Slicer Boomerang going down onto the Karch Finlord. And actually that defenseless... because it hit at least 5 champions, will give Scout just enough damage to finish off the Karch. And even get the Nora Globe for his trouble. So another Dark Summons proc. Badgerale clinging desperately to this game. Love it if you could make a comeback here, and I think maybe he might contest with a relic, maybe a Fire Ruby, maybe a let's see, a Head of Asarius is possible, depending on what he's running. Or maybe he won't contest with anything. Maybe he's just moving his Badger Wolf forward for intimidation purposes. Maxx, not afraid of anything, leaping into that font, and I'm he's definitely out of bodyguard range, and actually can't get back into bodyguard range unless price of victory. All right, so Badger Wolf moves into the font with that extra AP he's gained, and then Maxx pacifying that Torton Mortar, keeping him locked down with the Set Ablaze for next turn. That does, of course, put Badgerale's Shrine at 46 HP, so those Merfolk Stalkers of Bally's could potentially dive in and start thwapping away at it. Wow, Badger even had the Nora for his superiority too. I guess he's trying to prevent the Assassinates from going off on these Stalkers, because otherwise that damage, the damage alone didn't really do much for him. But I guess if he can deny the Assassinate, that's probably fine. And then Flycatcher going for an Ensnare on the Deep Elf Scout. That Deep Elf Scout has pretty much served its purpose, though. Taking out the Karch, getting a Nora Globe, and then, eating up some AP on the Flycatcher. But in this 1v1, Badger Wolf absolutely demolishes the Flycatcher. Flycatcher definitely more of a utility piece. And actually, the Nephrite Guardian going to take a little bit more damage here in Maxx stead. Of course, these Stalkers have multi... He took multi-2 on them. I think multi-1 is an option, right? I think it's multi-1, multi-2, and then maybe flanking, I believe. But I think multi-2 is probably the best option out of all of those, just because, I mean, he's gonna be diving in anyway, right? And that's 4 AP out of your 3. So that plus a little bit of extra, like from a Hornaborder or something, would provide just enough. Cecilia going in for a stun onto the Maxx. And that sort of counterbalances the Set Ablaze on the Mortar. Badgerale will probably have to use another spell to finish that Mortar off if he wants to get the kill. And, even more actually, because a Bubble of Protection going down. So Flood pushing Maxx away, still in the font, but pushes him back, and Badgerale trying to hang on here. So his spells goes for a Sacrifice on Scout, just for that little bit of Nora, which I'm sure he's lacking. And is there another Watershed? There is another Watershed Anchor, so Bally going really all in on the water generation. Maddening Echoes here. Badgerale really wanting to deny those Assassinates from the Stalker. And this imp can finish off this Stalker. That's pretty good. And then, but then Deep Elf Scout is going to have to tangle with this incoming Paladin. And I feel like Bally should not worry about the Maxx so much, honestly. If I were Bally, I'd be jumping into this font with the Cecilia, with the Paladin, and maybe even with the Stalker. Because, I mean, Badgerale's got nothing over there. He's got a Deep Elf Mercenary, and that's about it. And, I mean, if Maxx just sits in mid, from 4 spaces, like your Mortar can just snipe him down. Now that there's no Boundless Enthusiasm relocating him in. And Deep Elf Mercenary actually abandons the font entirely, going right for the Cecilia. Maybe trying to prevent a Constriction, but I don't think that would. I don't think that'll work. Merfolk Stalker gonna dive in here, probably get some more attacks, and Mortar can start poking away. And Badgerale really has to deploy at this font, because otherwise, I mean, the Paladin's just gonna walk in and take it. But definitely an unlucky matchup here, I would say, for Badgerale. Underdepths typically doesn't do that well against Forglar Swamp. Their abundance of CC options and, their utility just completely outclasses Underdepths. And as you'll see, as you've been seeing here, like the massive amount of crowd control and harass potential that Forglar Swamp can provide, in addition to their extremely cheap champion options and their the efficiency on these Paladins. This makes it really difficult for Underdepths to leverage their own strengths in this matchup. And Badgerale, over the course of this game, has had to resort to spells multiple times because his champions alone just aren't really cutting it. And the Stalkers, even though they have Aquatic, I mean they're still a force to be reckoned with. And he actually Wow, Bally, Bally going for a bit of a spiteful play here, drowning the Badger Wolf. Sort of like a symbolic threat to Badgerale himself. Basically warning him, you're going under, and there's nothing you can do about it. So Maxx here, not constricted. Maybe he can get off another Dark Summons in that font. But judging by his last Dark Summons of the Imp, Badgerale is kind of out of champions that he can bring forth here. And with that bubble of protection, it's going to be really tough for him to get a kill on anything. Boghopper Paladin with 7 defense. And, so Badgerale actually trying to deploy a relic in this spot. Reveals the Muirfolk Stalker. At least I'm assuming that's what happened, because Badgerale didn't have any other champion running into that area, and Maxx can't move. So clever use of game mechanics there to find the Stalker, and then the Imp takes this Stalker out. And Maxx getting a little bit more cooldown reduction. He could set ablaze to Cecilia, I suppose. And the Imp that he summoned will be returning to contest this font for him against the Mortar. These Imps are probably going to do okay versus the Mortar because they have dodge. You know, they can snipe, they can return fire. You know. Badgerale really not wanting to let this game go without a fight. Returning that Deep Elf Mercenary to the font. As far away as possible, actually. Not really wanting to tangle with the Paladin just yet. He does still have his bottom font under lock for the moment. And there's actually an Animosity. Is he going to do a second Animosity? Nah, he's just going to do one. So we actually did an Animosity to reduce the HP of that Torrent Mortar. I'm not sure why he would spend the Nora on Animosity right there, because it didn't really accomplish anything. Oh, but there's a Split Personality. Unfortunately, Split Personality does not do enough because of Twisted Essence healing up the Mortar, preventing its death. An unfortunate order of operations there, keeping that Mortar alive by 1 HP. So Mortar going to hang around for the foreseeable future while Paladin makes his way over to the Deep Elf Mercenary, not at all afraid, with his block and 8 defense. And the Fire Blast revealing the stealthed Imp there that Maxx had summoned. Maxx is going to live through the rest of the turn. Both Stalkers are down, and I feel like Bally should also be not falling behind on champs, but running out of champs in the Rundock to deploy. Just because he's lost quite a few champs just from Badgerale's desperate attempts to stay in the game here. 16 damage left on the bubble, 5 left on the bubble after an attack by Maxx and the Imps. And that should be a kill with this Imp here, because the overflow damage will be more than enough. So this Imp could maybe get this Nora Globe, aid in Badgerale's deployment struggles. And maybe, if Maxx had 1 more AP, he could actually use Set Ablaze again on this Cecilia and keep himself alive. But he does have enough for the Dark Summons, putting out another Imp. So there's 3 Imps in play right now for Badger. And he's managing to hold this off really well. I'm actually pretty impressed with this, how he's played so far. Not letting the efficiency of Bally's champs get to him, and not letting himself be deterred by his own drowning over here in the Badger Wolf. So Mercenary, able to hit that Paladin at least once with her multi-attack. It's a shame Badgerale does not have Nightblade for Strike, and I think it also gives Heart Strike too. So there's a secret meeting where Badgerale really wanting to keep that Maxx alive. And then even having the Nora for a Killzik. Wow, Badgerale is really... It would seem like Badgerale has had his font contested for a long time now. And he's been moving spells back and forth, you know, and even still, he seems to have the Nora for a secret meeting and Killzik. I think last turn all he did was use Animosity anyway, so... But Maxx is definitely his win con here, and it's very worth it to use Secret Meeting to keep it alive. Cecilia actually equipping the emergency kit, trying to find that Maxx with detection. But that's not... Maxx is not within this AoE. I'm pretty sure Maxx is like... Where did he cast Secret Meeting? It's not within the AoE. Yeah, so he's over here, and what is going on here? So Razorfin Slider actually tries to dive actually tries to dive into the spot where Maxx was, but he was there, so he actually dove right back to where he started. And in the process, it killed the stitched remains? I have no idea how that worked. But Bubble of Protection going down onto the Razorfin Slider. Interesting choice. I would probably favor more deploys, but again, like this game has been going on for quite some time, and baaly is definitely running low on champs. And unfortunately for Badger, the flood there, which he might have forgotten about. Maybe he intended that just so he could get the globe. But flood knocking Maxx back into this wall and killing him because of the Maxx is unable to move. So Razorfin Slider with the bubble going to come up. These three imps are actually going to do some damage here with Mischief, keeping that Cecilia at bay. And we'll see if Killzik can make the difference here. I would assume that Killzik is going to go up here and try to delay the Boghopper Paladin, right? I mean, he's got this font under control pretty much with these three imps. This one threatening to contest topside. Yeah, so he's going to engage with Mercenary here, probably engage with Killzik like right there. I probably would have engaged with Mercenary here instead of here, assuming he's going to put Killzik here. Because that also would leave the Boghopper Paladin with few spaces to remain in the font and keep bold stacks up. So we'll see what Killzik decides to do. Maybe Killzik is going to go in for a hit on the Cecilia, but it's not going to be enough to finish her off if he does. I guess he could do an ensnare if he wants, and then conserve some AP. But he's going to also have to watch that Flycatcher, that the Flycatcher doesn't somehow sneak bottom and take his font. But things are actually looking up for Badgerale. Even though he lost the Maxx, he got a ton of value from the Dark Summons. He's got these imps floating around, threatening to take baaly's fonts. And despite probably being short on champs as well, just the insane value of the Dark Summons, allowing him to maintain board presence. So a well-played Maxx choice there from Badgerale, and he actually deploys a Scorpic. I have not seen a Scorpic in quite some time, actually. And he took Lethal Poison too, the Mad Lad. So Lethal Poison is probably one of the worst abilities Underdepths can have access to. Because, I mean, when you're Underdepths, you're really not short on damage, and you can kill pretty much anything in 4 attacks anyway. So Lethal Poison, really not what they're looking for in their decks. But I guess it's fine on Albino Katipo, just because like Katipo has like 8 damage, but then why would you run an 8 damage spider when you could run like a Broodmother or something anyway, right? Or like if you're playing a meta deck, why would you not run literally anything else? But I guess Scorpic is sort of like a for fun pick here by Badger. He's not bad, like in the stat department. He's decent, but I think taking Poison 1 would definitely be the better choice. It would put him at like 70 Nora, and you know, he'd just be a brawler. I think what really turns me off him the most is that he's a 2x2. And as far as 2x2 arthropods go, we are definitely not short of them. So baaly, definitely trying to cling to this game as well. Goes for a Bog Trap here, though I'm pretty sure the one turn left on Flood will overwrite that water given by the Bog Trap. I'm not sure how that works anymore now that some terrain interactions are a little bit weird, but we do see that little darker blue area of where the Bog Trap was cast, so maybe Killzik will still lose her AP if she moves into that. Killzik not even giving it a chance, though. Not wanting to chance it, goes for the Entangle on Cecilia. And then Imps sapping a little bit of AP. These Imps are completely unencumbered by the Bog Trap, by the way, so I don't know if that was the right choice by baaly. And after that, Cecilia goes down. Badgerale actually takes the game. Very well played by Badgerale. Nicely played by baaly as well, and we'll see everyone in the next one.